And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers.
Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. You can find us on the JB and Goldwater app. Download that. It's free. You can have it in your phone, watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety, and if you miss anything, you can go back and watch and listen because of that app. You can also head to jbandgoldwatershow.com for much more. If you are watching to the right of the screen, that is me, JB. To the left, that is Darren Goldwater. We're here until 2 o'clock this afternoon, and we filled it up for you. We're going to have some fun with Skylar Meade in just a couple of minutes. The Gamecocks hit the road for Baton Rouge, and they take the series from LSU. We'll get a recap on that. We'll also look to Arkansas, the number one team in the country. We'll enter Founders Park on Thursday afternoon. Carolina looking to make a major statement in that one. We've got Collyn Taylor with Gamecock Central today at 1:05. No Wes Mitchell. He's got some things going on, so Collyn's going to pop in. Carolina's got a spring game coming up this weekend. They scrimmaged this past weekend. We got notes from that and much, much more. And then we've got Josh Pate at 1:30 today as well with 24/7 Sports, the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate. We're going to take a quick drive around the SEC. We talked to him about South Carolina and much, much more in that conversation. So we've got FCS playoffs, Darren. Those are set. We'll tell you how you can watch them, believe it or not. We got a bunch of in-depth college baseball stuff to get to. We've got some golf. So we are set and ready to go, my friend. Hope you had a good weekend. I hope Grayson had a good birthday. I hope Mom had fun. And welcome back to our daily routine at noon.
Right. Yeah. Welcome back to reality, right? That's kind of where we are right now with me. The weekend was great, and now just trying to settle back in. But Grayson had a ton of fun. Didn't spend a whole lot of time paying attention to much else. But when your daughter turns 8, she generally has a good weekend. She got her ears pierced with a little coaxing, and now is thrilled that she did. So it's a good weekend.
Very good. By the way, thank you to Tyler for saying, hope you and yours are doing well and our little ones. We really appreciate that. That's very kind. All right, Skylar Meade coming up in a minute. You can be a part of our conversation by sending us a message in any chat room that you've got. 843-321-8893 is our text line. If you have a question for us, for Skylar, for Collyn, for Josh Pate, you've got a comment, send it our way, and we'll make sure that we plug it in. Darren, we'll put it up on the screen already. A few of you are commenting there, so we certainly appreciate that. Real quick, in baseball around the state this weekend, really good weekend for Charleston Southern. They took 2 of 3 from USC Upstate. How about that? The Bucks are 12-11 in the Big South, 12-15 overall. They've got Winthrop tomorrow, so another challenge ahead, but a great weekend for them, bouncing back and sweeping a doubleheader on Saturday. Good weekend for the College of Charleston as well. Chad Holbrook and the Cougars now 15-15, 7-5 in the CAA. They dropped the Sunday contest, but they won both Friday and Saturday. Matter of fact, scored 29 runs combined in those first 2 games. You add that with the 13 they put on the board against Clemson. That was 42 runs, Darren, that they scored in a 3-game stretch. I know they were searching for offense. They certainly found it there. Citadel, good weekend for the Dogs. They get their first SoCon Series win of the year. 2 of 3 from ETSU, the former home, of course, of Tony Skull. And they've got the College of Charleston tomorrow at 3 o'clock. If you're planning to go to that game, The lights aren't working.
Pay the bill.
Riley Park. Don't know why, but they're not. So they've moved the first pitch up to 3:00. Tough weekend for the Tigers. They went to Coral Gables and were swept by Miami. They've lost 6 straight. 15-17 now is Clemson, 9-12 in the ACC. They've got Georgia tomorrow night and then a series hosting Wake Forest coming up this weekend. Coastal Carolina dropped 2 of 3 against Georgia Southern. They are now 16-11, 2-4 in the Sun Belt. They'll head to Chapel Hill to take on the Tar Heels tomorrow evening. And South Carolina is going to be off until Thursday, of course. They took 2 of 3 from LSU starting in the 7th inning of Game 2 in Baton Rouge and just cruising right on through the 7th inning and Game 3 in Baton Rouge. And they continue to perform incredibly well. 9-1 in Game 2s and 3s in the Southeastern Conference. And the guy that manages the pitching staff, he's also on staff with us here. He should be, at least.
I mean, we can't mess with a good thing, right?
That's right. That's what I texted him this morning. I said, hey, this seemingly is working. So do you want to pop back in today? And he obliged. So we're joined by the Gamecocks pitching coach, Skyler Meade. Hey, man, another series win. Congratulations. And happy Monday, brother.
Hey, happy Monday to you guys, too. Yeah, no, it was a fun weekend down there at Alex Box. Well, more fun on Saturday than it was on Thursday and Friday. But
well, what the hell happened? I mean, it's baseball. So guys like you're calm, cool, and collected. Y'all been around a while. And then, but things weren't going your way. Skylar, I think that's a pretty good argument. LSU had a couple of exceptional pitching performances, and y'all couldn't get some runners in and scoring position. Things just weren't going your way essentially until the 7th of Game 2. And Mendham popped a single, and Burgess stroked one back up the middle. You move those guys over. Wimmer knocks them in. All of a sudden, this sucker's tied, and then the bats decided they were just going to stay out the rest of the afternoon, and you pounded the Tigers in Game 3 there. So what clicked there in the 7th inning?
Well, that inning, when you really break it down, our guys who had taken the 2 best swings the previous, 16 innings of baseball had been, David and Collyn. So, David took that 1-0 cookie and hit that fastball to right for a base hit. And then Burgess, got into a count, 1-2 where he had to shorten up and took a great swing on smoking that ball up the middle. And then, I think what was undervalued is Noah Myers, who, hadn't been out there in a little bit, comes in there and does a tremendous job getting the bunt down, which was just huge. And then Wimmer did what you got to do when, guys come in. He just ambushed first pitch fastball to right, and Cruz finally didn't make a catch out there. He made some nice catches, throughout the weekend early on. And, next thing you know, that game pressure flipped. Their guy who they brought back from relief on Thursday, was pitching a little bit different stylistically. And Brady sits on that 2-2 breaker. And next thing you know, we got a 4-2 lead. And, Mr. Carey comes in there now and did his deal and closed it out. And I think when you have a momentum win like that, a game that seems like you're going to lose, and you flip the script and you win, it's just such a momentum boost. And the way we jumped out on, Mr. Money in that last game was huge. And obviously, Will Sanders just attacking the strike zone after that allowed us to win that game fairly handily, which doesn't happen very often in the SEC. So it was a great day, a great, time for our guys, and one that I'm glad they enjoyed. And now obviously Monday they'll all get back to work and start looking forward to Arkansas. But certainly a great experience to win 2 games at Alex Box in one day.
Yeah, this league is unforgiving, Skylar. You don't folks know what's ahead on the schedule. We know that you're only focused on the next one, but it's the SEC, and there's so many opportunities left for your guys to you essentially control any destiny you want. Carolina baseball does with the way that it all sets up. Let's go back to a decision that LSU made because you're a pitching coach, and I just want to talk some baseball. Get in the head of a pitching coach here for a second. So let me tell you what I thought. I'm not trying to make this about me, but I want you to tell me why I'm either wrong or try to educate the offense here or the audience here. I mean, so when we get to game or inning number 7 in Game 2, and the kid that LSU had on the bump all day, Skylar, was really good. It seemed to me, just watching it on TV, everything had a little bit of movement on it. He was able to keep your guys off balance a lot. And he'd been pretty good. He'd been through the order a few times. And so I know that pitching coaches sometimes, people question why they leave a guy in too long. They question why they take a guy out too early and yada, yada, yada. It's all a bunch of BS. But in this instance, I kind of thought, well, he'd been upper 80s, maybe low 90s all day. He'd already been through the order a few times. Maybe in this final inning, they're going to go to a guy that maybe pumps it in there in the mid 90s, kind of change eye levels, change bat speed, things like that, and try to shove it right down Carolina's throats and win this sucker. And they didn't do that. So what do you think? I mean, I'm not asking you to question another coach's decision. That's Paul Maneri's decision. But if it were you, would you have done that any differently? And how did your team react to that when they saw the starter trot back out there in the 7th?
Well, I certainly think when he trotted out there, that was probably not great news for us because he'd been stuffing us pretty good.
Okay.
You get him for those 2 hits, and I think their mindset was probably, maybe he's at the end of his rope. You see 2 well-struck balls on pitches that maybe had not been hit the previous 6 innings. And so as any coach, I mean, we've been in this position too, you see it, you're like, well, and give up a hit, well struck, maybe the velocity is a shade down. So, you try to make that move and be preemptive, right? Be a little proactive rather than reactive in a sense. And, I think the one thing that maybe really bode, kind of had bode well for us in that situation was we'd seen Fontenot on Thursday night. We almost had a chance to really rally on him Thursday, and Burgess hit that 3-1 double play, and then they got strikeouts in the game, so it seemed like minimal damage, but we grinded on him pretty good. So I think there was probably a little bit of internal confidence that some of our hitters felt having seen that guy at least one time live. And thankfully it did play out that way with the way some of those balls were struck by Wimmer and Brady and the at bat by George. I mean, it just seemed like we had a little confidence there. So yeah, like you said, all moves certainly get, hindsight 2020. People certainly love doing that in this sport. And so it's a tough deal, but I will say there was probably some confidence within our guys coming off seeing that guy on Thursday evening.
Skylar Meade, pitching coach for the South Carolina Gamecocks. They won another series this weekend down in the box, LSU. So let's talk about your arms. LSU, they were playing actually pretty well coming into this series. I think there's a lot of folks, Skylar, who thought, okay, well, the Tigers are starting to get it figured out here. This could be dangerous for South Carolina. And so after you lose game 1, you know that you're going to have to get a start out of Brandon Jordan. Your bats weren't really alive, and you knew you're going to need to hang around to try to scratch some runs somewhere. And you got a pretty good one. I know that he walked 5 guys. I know that was frustrating, but he allowed 2 runs. That's it. Nobody gave up any more than that. And then Peters comes in there and was special once again for a couple of innings. Your staff gave your program an ability to win this weekend. Had you been out of it 3 or 4 or 5 runs down in the 7th, you wouldn't have been able to win this series. Tell me about those guys. The start with Brandon Jordan, Peters, and what they were going through inning by inning in the dugout, the conversations you were having that led to keeping LSU right where they were at only 2 runs.
Yeah, and you know what, Jake? I think it started on Thursday. I know we lost that game, and Farr took the loss, but I think even Farr, giving up that 2 spot in the first, a weak ball that, looks like you're going to get an out, gets a hit, and then he ends up giving up the ambush homer, but he grinded through and didn't give up another run. And, I thought we pitched solid on Thursday. Not great, but solid. And I think that set the tone for what our guys were capable of. I know in the pregame talk, that was one of the things we said. We think we have a really good plan of execution against these guys, and our matchups are favorable. And yeah, Brandon walked too many guys. He would be the first to tell you. He had some really close pitches, a lot of 2-2 fastballs we tried to stuff in there that we didn't get the call, that we kind of thought we could. Maybe would have changed the course of his outing a little bit. But Andy Peters came in and was magnificent. Big pitches, just, handling the situation and getting outs. And obviously Brett coming in there and doing his 11-pitch deal in the last inning, with the help of Eister making a nice play. And obviously Sanders just doesn't give in. He spun his breaking ball good again. Breaking ball had been a little off for about 2 outings. had the breaking ball working really well. You know, their 3 and 4 hole hitters had about 12 swing and misses on it combined, which was just awesome, the way he threw that. And then obviously Bosnick put a nice little bow on the weekend. But, you know, our guys, the thing they're going to do, you know, win, lose, or draw, like our pitchers are going to go in there and compete. You know, even you saw Jackson Phipps gives up the home run, you know, got ambushed by Beloso on Friday night in the 8th. And then next thing you know, he literally throws, you know, 8 straight strikes and, you know, goes through and gets 3 up, 3 down. They're going to get after it. They believe in their stuff. And I think if you do that enough, you're going to at least give yourself a chance to win every game. Can't win every game. So we all know that that can be very difficult, but you at least have a chance. I think that's all you can ask for.
Oh, well, we don't all know that, Skylar. There are people out there that think that you actually can win every game in baseball, even though it's never happened before. So let me be the reminder for everybody that you do lose occasionally in this sport, especially at this level in this league. And Will Sanders again. I mean, you can't have a conversation anymore about Carolina baseball without this guy. I think he leads the team in wins. He's got 6 of them. He's really good, man. I know I asked you last week about his mentality. You know, now you got a freshman starting on the road in Baton Rouge. I don't care if LSU's 0-50 or 50-0. It's Baton Rouge. It's hard to play in Alex Box Stadium. It's hard to win down there, which, by the way, Carolina historically actually has played fairly well. I think they've won 4 series now since they've entered the league in 1992. But this kid, I watched him on TV a little bit on Saturday. He just confidence just seeps out of his pores. I mean, he's looking around and I'm good, thumbs up, you know, waving to the crowd. I think he tipped his cap to somebody once or twice. I mean, this dude is fun to watch, and his stuff, Skylar, he's a freshman. His stuff is exceptional.
No, Will's got a chance to be very special. I think it doesn't take a trained eye to know there's something different with him. And he, you know, his composure has been magnificent. I think that's been the biggest thing that, you know, he really struggled with in the fall. Not composure in the sense of where you see him get frazzled, but he had shown a little bit of ability to lose it in the summer and the fall. And so I think that's something a lot of freshmen have to work through. And it's a, you know, a ability to focus or refocus type thing. And, you know, he's kind of developing his own style and way he does things. And he's certainly, you know, coming into his own, I believe. And there's things he can still improve upon. And I think will, because he's got real work ethic and he's not afraid to change and evolve, which is obviously vital in this sport. So yeah, it's really fun watching him do what he does. And hopefully he can keep doing it for the rest of the year. We would all certainly sign up for that right now.
Everybody in the lineup had a hit in that final game, at least one. 14 total for your club. David Mendham had a nice weekend, Skylar. It did appear that Mark was playing around with the lineup from time to time. I know he bumped Wimmer down to try to, you know, get him, maybe let him see a pitch or two that could help him. Of course, that really worked out. He kind of came up in a big spot there at the bottom of at the top of the 7th at the end of game 2. So good thing that Braylon Wimmer was standing there, and he knocks that ball off the wall. And then, you know, you get into that final one there, and he's back in the 2-hole. Mendham there. But Wes Clark moved up to the 3-hole. And so Drew Meyer and I were talking about this on Friday. Well, excuse me, Darren, Drew, and I were talking about this on Friday. You know, Wes has been struggling. He's been scuffling lately. That happens in baseball, especially in the SEC. And you got to figure out what to do to help that young man. Sometimes that you move him down the lineup. Sometimes you give him a day off. Well, Mark Kingston moved him up in the order. Why was that?
Well, I think part of it was just the way that we had just made the concerted effort to literally just shift everyone up when we had, you know, shifted kind of who our 2-hole had been, which obviously had been Wimmer. I know he batted, you know, 9th opening night, and then we flip-flopped him. So that was kind of part of it, just in its simplest form. But, you know, I think Wes can be and has been great. He's in a little bit of a funk now. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But I think he's one swing from breaking out of it. He had taken a good swing late in the game Thursday night that we thought might get him going, smoked the ball at third, about 110. Was not a hit, but, you know, had really hit a baseball flush and clean. And so I just think Wes needs to just take a deep breath. And this isn't just me. This is kind of the message from, you know, our coaching staff. Obviously, Coach Lake does a great job with the hitters. And it's just, hey, simplify, just strike the ball clean, hit good pitches. And when you do, you're as feared a hitter as there is in college baseball. And hopefully we can get him back to doing that ASAP.
Well, you mean to tell me that Coach Lake and King aren't just telling him every time he's in the
Yeah. Well, I think, the one thing you've probably seen from Wes is he's just been a little bit chase happy. And, I think sometimes what can be tough for guys is when you become as feared as he has been, you have a hard time accepting the walks. You know what I mean? Because you want to hit, you're a hitter. And I think that's the thing that if he can just continue to get on base, have that Barry Bonds mentality, where if you throw me a strike, I'm going to hit it. If you don't throw me a strike, I'm taking my walks. When he can kind of get back in that mode, I think he's going to be just fine.
I love it. Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the Gamecocks. Couple minutes left here, Skylar, and we're going to let you run. Arkansas is one of 2 30-win teams in college baseball. I don't know if you've seen them. They're pretty good. They took 2 of 3 this weekend from Texas A&M. But you know what else? Y'all are pretty good too, and you're going to welcome them to Founders Park this weekend. I know because you don't have a midweek game, Skylar, you get to actually focus on the Razorbacks in an SEC series to start the work week. How about that? Congratulations. First of all,
yes, thank you.
First of all, not having a midweek game, how helpful is that to your guys? I know we texted this morning. You got back yesterday, actually, so you're going to get a few days to kind of get into the flow before the Razorbacks come calling. So not playing a midweek game, how beneficial could that be, or is it?
I think it's probably beneficial this week just with the travel that we had and not getting back till yesterday. I think that can take a toll on anybody, no matter how tough or physically and demand as you might be of yourself. It can beat you down a little bit. So I think the guys needed, they had yesterday as a travel day, and you kind of handle that. And today they can kind of do what they need to do and their work on their own, which I've seen a lot of guys milling around the building today. But we obviously still have to utilize by NCAA rule today as an off day, even though yesterday was a travel day. So we'll get back at it tomorrow with a really good practice. And then, Wednesday will be a lot of the detailed type stuff, that we always try to go over the day before games. And then, of course, Thursday we'll kick it off with the Razorbacks. And yeah, you said it. They're a good team. There's no doubt about that. They always have a heck of a program, and they're like anybody else. We just got to go out there and execute against them, and hopefully we can have some really good swings. I think the weather's going to be pretty nice here, so I'm sure the ball will be jumping out of Founders per usual. So I think that's good, hopefully for us, and it'll certainly be a battle. I would if I had to place a bet on it.
They score a lot of runs, Skylar. I don't think we have a ton of listeners in the state of Arkansas. So if you have any insight as to how you prepare your staff for an offense like this, that would be greatly appreciated. No, I'm not asking for details, but they do swing it well. I don't know how much you've actually seen of those guys. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch them at all or anything like that, but if you have, what is it that they do so successfully to put up those type numbers?
Well, they have a pretty good mixture of right-handed and left-handed hitters. They're going to probably roll out there probably 5 left-handed hitters in their order, at least certainly against right-handed starters. They got a lot of guys that got some juice. They play well in their park. The ball can fly to right field out there at Baum Stadium. Anybody that's watched games out there, will see that. And so they got some left-handers that can really get the head out. I think the big message when you face an offense that is really good, we faced Vanderbilt and Florida and some of the top offenses in this league. I think the big thing as a group you have to do is number one, you have to believe in your stuff. You have to believe in the odds are in your favor as a pitcher. If I trust my stuff, I'm going to do well. So that's number one. Number two, you got to realize that if you just don't give them freebies that are controllable, solo home runs, just like Will Sanders against Missouri on that Sunday, right? He gave up 2 solo home runs, but that was it. They weren't getting anything else off them. But you have to limit those big inning opportunities by attacking with strikes and making them string hits back to back and, putting those type of innings together on their own accord, not by us doing it. So those are probably the 2 main things that we'll focus on. I haven't totally, dug into the style and tendencies of all their hitters, the Robert Moores and Slavins and all those guys that I'm aware of, Goodhart, all those guys. I know who they are. I've seen them, but I just haven't got to dig into the nitty gritty of them yet. But that'll probably be something that begins, starting tomorrow morning.
Haven't seen the Razorbacks since the year you and your staff went to the Super Regional in Fayetteville in 2018. Matter of fact, y'all played Arkansas 7 times that year, 5-2. Arkansas got the better of your program. But the last time they came to Columbia, Chad Holbrook and the Gamecocks swept them right on back to town. So hopefully it's something similar starting on Thursday. Skylar, I know that y'all will be looking to repay them for what happened, ending your run to Omaha just a few years ago. We'll be watching as we always are, man. Really happy for you and Mark and Coach Lake and Coach Couch and the staff and the players, most importantly. 10-5 at the halfway mark in the league. It's been a nice run. Keep it going starting Thursday night at Founders Park.
Absolutely. No, I think if our guys, it sounds a little cliche, but it's very true. If our guys just keep focusing on one game at a time, I think we got a chance to continue to do some really good things, and hopefully we can play for a long time this year and make a lot of Gamecock fans happy.
Nice.
Hey, why don't you just move the game 1 to game 3? Just start every series with game 2. So play game 2, game 3, game 1.
Can we move all the games to Sunday too?
Yeah, triple headers are a thing now, so we can just load them up on Sunday.
Yeah,
Brady Allen Day. So.
Dude, no kidding. I don't know what his deal is in game 3s. Hey, I did get can I squeeze one more question in? It's from a listener. Do you mind?
Yes.
Did have a question about the ball that was trapped in right field. Was that something that was discussed in the dugout about reviewing that or anything like that? How do those conversations happen?
So the way most of them happen, obviously we use our eyes just in sarcastic, but I don't. But sometimes you just go, okay, I don't think this ball was caught. I think this ball was caught. I think this guy's out. I think he's safe. Now, sometimes when you're in parks, you'll get one of those quick replays. We try to remind our people at Founders to be helpful for us when we're at home so that we can see a quick replay.
Right.
You need to use your home field advantage to your advantage. But I will tell you, when the play was happening, I thought there was no way that ball was going to be caught. But then in the angle in which Cruz dove for that ball, I was so shocked that I saw no movement from our angle. You have to realize you're far off in that third base dugout. And so, the umpire who was over there was very quick on it. Even Coach Couch, who had the closest view, we were shocked to find out that he indeed did not catch it. So normally, you probably on those plays, you would quickly go to, hey, you know what, screw it, just review. But we were actually so shocked that there was no reaction from anyone that we just said, okay, I guess he caught the ball. Obviously hindsight being 2020, it kind of sucked because it probably should have been hit. But at the time, it was one that I think it kind of juked us all, to be quite frank, myself included. I mean, if you ask me, I was like, I cannot believe he caught that ball, but I felt as if he did. And then we, later on saw some replays and stuff like that, and that certainly wasn't the case. But that's kind of the process. And we have guys on our team who, when there's certain plays, they're really truthful. We have some guys on our team, they're always safe. I'm safe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, you're not. And so we also know what players are really good about being hyper aware, and then some guys maybe are not. And that I mean that serious and joking at the same time. Like, some guys just get so competitive in the moment, they don't really know. They always assume that it's a positive outcome for us. And so we try to utilize that. Braylon Wimmer is a guy that we can give a quick look to, and he'll be like, yes, he's out, or he'll look at you and go, he has that ability. David Mendham on Bang Bang Plays at First has actually been spot on many a time. So that's kind of the process. I hope that answers the question. King obviously is the only one that can get them to replay it, but we all try to communicate really quickly so that we, either do or do not review certain things.
What's the because that was early in the game, right? If I remember correctly. So
it was the second hitter of the game. Yes.
Yeah. So what's the review policy? If he I can't remember what it is. If you review that and you're wrong.
Two reviews on your own. Now, once you get to the 8th inning, now I believe in a 7-inning game, it becomes a 6th and 7th inning. But when you get to the last 2 innings of games, the reviews then go to the umpiring crew. And if we make a review in the first inning of a game and we're correct on it, then we retain that review.
Okay.
But you only get 2.
Right.
Unless, obviously, you were correct. And so, yeah, we've been batting pretty well on our review, don't review things. And so, yeah, we watched that one on Saturday. Thankfully, it didn't come back to bite us.
Well, but that was
wrong on that one.
That was kind of the point I was getting at, though, because it's so early in the game. If you're not really sure about it and you lose that, you might need both of those. I mean, you're trying to come back and even up the series there, so you might need both of those a little bit later on. So I was wondering how much that goes into it with King or the staff in general. Like, hey, look, oh man, I don't know if we're going to win that one. I mean, you have to go based on what you see and what you hear. So I don't know if we're going to win that one. We might need to save it till later.
The problem that you run into sometimes, and I don't know, maybe I'd get fined for saying this, but I don't care. I mean, you look back though, like at Georgia, the game we lost Friday night, there was a massive review. You know, we made an error with 2 outs. They went on a dirt ball to second base. Wimmer tagged the guy clearly in the head. His glove pushed back. The helmet had a retraction. It was an out. And then we went to review in Birmingham, and somehow they said he wasn't out. And so sometimes you sit there and you can see these plays, but based upon how they're called, they may not change the play. So, look, it's great that we have review. It's great that we have the greatest TV setup in all of the country in the SEC. But sometimes you don't trust that the play is going to get flipped the other way. If the call was no catch the other night and LSU reviews, well, it ends up probably going that way. But the call was a catch, and you're sitting there going, well, are they going to have a camera view that's even going to show that? Or are they going to flip that play? Like, that's the other thing you have to factor in many of times is that part, because we've seen reviews that are not correctly called. How that is, I don't know. That's not my job to figure out. But I just think sometimes you run into that and you go, well, what's the risk or reward based upon the inning in which it happens?
Well, they'll have plenty.
Has a problem with reviews also, so it's not just isolated to college.
That's true. It's very true.
Well, right. And I've said this before to y'all. It's the only issue I got with it. I don't think these need to take 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I got a real problem with that. I mean, our eyes immediately tell you slow-mo, zoom in on the area, tag play, no tag play, out safe. Okay, make the call. Let's go, because we got one of the best products that there is on television right now. College baseball is blowing up. Follow what's going on with the crowds going all over the country, the bar stools of the world getting in on college baseball. ESPN did a highlight package on college baseball last night. It's blowing up. We need to take advantage of this as a sport, slowing our game down by prolonged reviews that can be made in 30 seconds, not 3 minutes. That needs to not be part of our deal. That's just my opinion.
I totally agree. And and hopefully this weekend people will be able to watch reviews from the stands. More on that later. But Skylar, congratulations. And here's the good news about the review stuff, by the way. It's just like the national championship in football. Like when you get to the national championship in college football, there's like 100 camera angles in the ballpark.
Right.
So when you get to Omaha, you don't need to worry about it, brother. They'll figure it out. So get to Omaha and you'll get one of these things.
I hope so.
Okay. Yeah. Just get to Omaha. We'll worry about the reviews there.
All you got to do.
Yes, indeed. I'll sign that deal right now.
No big deal, man. Just get to Omaha. You know, just walk right on in there. Hey, congratulations. Hogs come calling this weekend. Send them home whimpering if you can, and we'll catch up with you next week. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
That's it.
You got it. There you go. Skylar Meade, pitching coach of the South Carolina Gamecocks, and I think he made a brilliant point there at the end. This is the best thing on TV right now. Period. Period. The end. I don't care what anybody. Well, Major League Baseball is better. Well, sure. It's April. These guys are playing to go to Omaha. Their season ends in June. Doesn't start in June.
I was having a conversation with a Clemson fan this weekend, and they're scuffling. But we were also still talking about that the college baseball product is as good as it's been, and it's a great product to have out there. So don't push it back down if you've got an opportunity to keep lifting it up higher.
Absolutely. I just this weekend I thoroughly enjoyed bouncing around to a bunch of different games throughout the country. It was just special to watch, and baseball is thriving. We have a lot more on that here in just a few minutes. We have Collyn Taylor at 1, Josh Pate at 1:30. So it's a jam-packed Monday afternoon. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every 2021 Tiguan, $3,500 off. Every 2021 Atlas, $5,300 off. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save $5,300 on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per 1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Spring is officially here, and there's no better place to bring it in than the Dog and Duck. 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Park West, Bell Hall, and Clements Ferry Road, all of them with gorgeous outdoor seating to take advantage of their daily food and drink specials. Through the end of April, $5 Sweetwater pints. Food specials like Taco Tuesday and the Game Day Burger every Wednesday. It's all available at Dog and Duck. There are 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Hey everybody, what's going on? This is singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, but whenever I want to keep up with the South Carolina Gamecocks or even the Clemson Tigers, I can still tune in to JB and Goldwater because they are always live, loud, and online.
And I sing hallelujah. I do believe.
All right, 12:37. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It's beautiful out there, Darren. We should be doing the show outside somewhere. What are we doing?
We should. We can take it. So I'm not a big beach guy because there's just too much going on to the beach, but like a community pool, much easier to take your stuff there, the cooler's there, then back home. So community pools where we should do the show.
In our board shorts. I agree.
Why not?
Agree. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line, and tons of you have been commenting today, and we certainly appreciate that. Josh Pate, Collyn Taylor still ahead on our program. Craig says finish 8-7 in the league, talking about Carolina here, and that's a solid 18-12 in SEC play. More on that in a minute here, Craig. But I agree with you, certainly. There was also some discussion about maybe moving David Mendham to third. Tyler, that will not happen. I promise you that. He will continue to be the first baseman for South Carolina. Here's the thing. they got to get Brennan Malone going. And he's stung a couple over the last couple of weekends that he's showing enough signs of kind of coming out of that slump. They're going to need Brennan Malone at the end of the year. And so certainly he's going to continue to get his opportunities. He's a high-profile, highly rated kid. When they brought him in, they expect him to play well, and he's at least showing enough to get there. So continue to watch for Brennan Malone in the lineup unless it all kind of falls through the floor. Here's what it looks like, by the way, in the SEC and also for programs across the state. In the Southeastern Conference, Arkansas leads the West at 11-4. Their game up on Mississippi State, and then Ole Miss is at 9-6, so they're 2 games up on them. And then there's Alabama at 7-8, and then it's LSU, A&M both at 4-11, Auburn at 2-13, and then in the East, you've got Vandy at 11-4, and then Tennessee at 10-5, South Carolina at 10-5. Vandy took 2 of 3 this weekend from the Vols in Lindsey Nelson Stadium, and Mississippi State took 2 of 3 this weekend from Ole Miss, of course, at the Dude. So you got Vandy, Tennessee, South Carolina at 10-5, tied with Tennessee, Florida at 9-6. Gators swept Missouri this weekend. They're a game back of South Carolina. Of course, if they were tied, just remember that Carolina owns that tiebreak because they swept the Gators in Columbia. Then you got Kentucky at 7-8, Georgia at 7-8, Missouri at 4-11. The East is really, really deep. They're really, really good. So let's just talk about the Gamecocks for a minute, and then we're going to kind of dance around at postseason opportunities for many of the programs within our borders here, Darren. So Carolina right now is firmly in. And if the season ended today, they would be a regional host. I have no doubt about that. But they have as much opportunity as anybody to either move their way up or move their way down. They control their own destiny as far as where it finishes as much as anybody in the league or across the country, really, for that matter.
Yeah.
Because of what's left. You've got 3 straight series, Arkansas at home, at Mississippi State. At Ole Miss, Mississippi State at home. Then you got to go on the road to Kentucky. SEC road series always get you big points when you win them. And then, of course, they've got Tennessee. So based on the newest D1 rankings, you basically have 4 top 10. I know Ole Miss has slid out of there, but that's because they got beat by Mississippi State this weekend. Darren, they're still basically considered a top 10 program. So Carolina has 4 series left of their 5 versus top 10 teams, including, you just put it up there, number 1 Arkansas coming this weekend, et cetera, et cetera. Number 4 Mississippi State, Tennessee, whatever. And those numbers could slide. Arkansas's won't, but those other numbers could slide around a little bit based on kind of what happens. So they control literally, like, best case scenario. All right, let's play best case scenario here. You win every one of them. You win every series.
That would be best case scenario. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry about that. Best case scenario is you win every series, right?
Yeah.
Which would be, let's say, 2 of 3. So that means you would finish at 20-10 in the league. You're at that point in time more than likely a top 8 national seed, which would basically guarantee you a super regional host. Old school would. We'll see what that means this year with some of the new stuff. Yeah. You win 3 of these series, you're no doubt a top 16. You're no doubt probably a top 12. You're probably knocking on the door of a top 8 national seed. You win 1 or 2 of them. More than likely, if you're 17-13, 18-12, somewhere in there, you're Darren, you're a top 16 seed. So you're a regional host. So there is ample opportunity for this Gamecock team. Here's what you want if you're South Carolina. You want to go back to the days when the SEC tournament literally meant crap.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could ask Drew Meyer, you could ask a bunch of guys who put that uniform on before. They're never going to tell you they were going over there to lose, but they certainly weren't going over there just to make some strong run through the tournament and win it because it mattered. They were going over there, stay healthy, nobody blow an arm out, don't run into a catcher and sprain your knee, don't do anything stupid, don't get caught out after curfew and get suspended. Let's roll it out there. If we win, we win. If not, we come home. We're going to be a host, so it doesn't matter. That's what you want.
Yep. And you knew that. I mean, just based off the track record of success in the SEC tournament, you knew that was the overall landscape of it. But just this year alone, the regional and super regional, and when those sites exactly will be announced, you're already going to know the regional site hosts by the time you get to those last, series or 2. So as you look at those last 5 series, and you pointed out 4 of them against top 10 teams, it's important to play well early, right? If you're going to drop some of these series, ideally you drop some of the later ones so that your standing is still there, even though you don't want to be cold going into the tournament or anything. But at the same time, it's important that your resume is as good as it can be up to the point of that announcement.
That's a great point. So Carolina has 11 games that they'll play before that May 10th announcement for regional host sites. And the 3 series are Arkansas, at Ole Miss, and Mississippi State. So, again, best case scenario is they win all of them. Let's say they go 2-1 in all of them, which would put them at 16-8. They're not only a regional host, but now they're really playing their way towards a top 8 national seed, which that is what guarantees you a super regional host in traditional form in college baseball.
And I think it would this year too.
I think so too.
Right. Just speaking SEC wise, all these programs, I mean, I don't know this is a fact, but it's a pretty good guess, all of them have put in good bids, really good bids. And most of them, the SEC teams that are around the top of the country right now, most of them are probably going to get their regional sites. So if you're around that top 8, you're probably going to have that super regional already in the palm of your hand if you can get there.
Yes, for most of them, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, at this point in time, probably Ole Miss or Tennessee, probably Tennessee and then Ole Miss, I would say. And then there's South Carolina, which goes back to our point, which they have every opportunity to move their way into that conversation. Because at this point in time, I think you would be assured for 6 regional host sites in the out of the Southeastern Conference. No doubt, right? South Carolina, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas. Those 6, that's a no doubt about it. I think now you've got Florida, who's worked their way back into that conversation, probably for 7th. And at this point in time, I would think that's it as far as being assured a regional host. Being assured of a regional host. Now, teams that would make it outside of that, I mean, you got Alabama is knocking on the door to get in this thing. Kentucky, Georgia at this point in time is considered in, probably should be. And Kentucky's knocking on the door. A&M, Auburn, Missouri not going to make the tournament unless they make incredible runs in the second half. LSU at this point in time not going to make the tournament unless they make and they're capable. I think they're capable of making a big run. So, but when you look at it, like if you are a Carolina baseball fan, Darren, let me throw this at you. Tennessee on their schedule this year doesn't have Ole Miss or Mississippi State from the West.
Yep.
Vanderbilt doesn't have Arkansas. Florida doesn't have Mississippi State. Kentucky doesn't have Ole Miss. They don't have Arkansas either. But they also have a tough schedule on the way home, or on the way into the regular season. I mentioned Arkansas and Vandy. They don't play Mississippi State and Florida. Don't play. Ole Miss doesn't play Tennessee or Kentucky. Who am I leaving out here? South Carolina, and they play all of them.
I'm chuckling just a bit, just only because the depth of the league is absurd. I mean, how much last week did we talk about how good LSU was and how the bodies there are better than the record is, right? And they're basically bringing up the rear. They're right around there. They haven't played well this year, but that's how good the league is. So yeah, Arkansas doesn't get Vanderbilt, and we'd all love to see that series right now. Yeah. But they still get a whole bunch of other tough tests. The Gamecocks do look on paper like they've got the hardest schedule. I mean, but you're pulling hairs, man. If you're debating which SEC baseball team has a harder schedule.
Oh, it's wild. I mean, it's you throw in Texas, obviously you throw in Clemson. I know the Tigers have been struggling. Talked to Monty this morning. They're in good spirits, but they've been struggling. So you add all that into this Gamecock schedule, it is just something ridiculous. But Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, they've got it too. Not just in the league, but remember they opened the season in that Round Rock or whatever it was, Classic, whatever you call it, and they had TCU, Texas Tech, Texas. They beat them all. So, it's quite difficult. I mean, Kentucky, they've had to play Louisville. I think they've already beat Louisville a couple of times this year. There are some really difficult non-cons in there as well. Craig says sites don't change after regionals, right? So if you get a regional, does that automatically get you a super? I don't have that answer. Nobody does. We've asked this question. That was our assumption initially, but we don't have that answer. Now, for the latest information I have is that yeah, like if you're a regional host and you win the regional, yeah, you're going to be a super regional host. But what if you're a regional host and somebody else comes in and wins your regional who wasn't awarded a regional, and they happen to be a higher seed than somebody else who also won one? Where does it go then? Nobody knows. So there's some gray area there, and we don't have that answer. Darren, let me get to the ACC though. Let me get to the ACC, and let's touch on Clemson for a second here, because it's been a tough go for Clemson of late. They've lost 6 in a row. I know Carolina fans are smiling when they see that. I'm not telling you not to. I think if you're a South Carolina baseball fan, that should make you pretty happy. 15-17, 9-12. As of just a week ago, their latest projections, they were considered in the field. Right now, they're not going to be considered in postseason field. They're going to have to get going. For Tiger fans, I would suggest this. I know it's frustrating to watch. the key pieces of that team is young. They're really young. And Gary Meredith didn't start the year, and I know you don't want to hear it, and I get it. I totally get it. No excuses. It's Clemson baseball. You should never have a bad year. You should never be under 500. I agree, and I understand it. I think that's the right mentality to have. And guess what? So does Monty Lee. But they're going through it. They're going through it, and they're going to really have to get going. Louisville and Notre Dame are shoe-ins to host regionals at this point in time. Virginia Tech is not a shoe-in, but I think at this point in time they're knocking on the door. 16, maybe a 15 seed, maybe. They're 20-12, but they have some nice wins. They got 15 wins in the league, and there's 9 ACC teams right now who I think most are considering to make the postseason. Okay? Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, Georgia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, Louisville, Notre Dame, Florida State, NC State. 9, maybe. Yeah, probably that's it. Maybe not. I don't know. You might be able. You might shift it to 8. We'll have to see kind of what it looks like. Miami's a team that's really come on strong. They've now won 4 in a row. They swept Clemson this weekend. So, but if you ask me, all right, well, how many regional hosts are there out of the ACC? 2 right now, maybe 3 at Virginia Tech, but Louisville and Notre Dame, Darren, I think they deserve one.
Well, I mean, they're top 10 teams right now. So if you're saying right now who's going to have a regional host, assuming they put bids in, which is a safe assumption, Louisville and Notre Dame are the 2 guarantees at the ACC. That's absolute.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. The question is Monty on the hot seat at Clemson? No. No, he's not. He shouldn't be. Again, I know that people have knee-jerk reactions to things, and I know that they don't want to see that a losing record, a guy who's been there now for 5 years or so. You look at that and you go, what? Are you kidding me? Why would he not be on the? We don't have losing records at Clemson. Jack Leggett never had them. I get it. I understand that. Again, I think that they're really young. I'm the wrong guy to ask too. If you're looking for a different answer, you don't ask me. I've known Monty Lee a long time, and I don't. He's as brilliant of a baseball guy as there is out there. He's got high character. He knows how to recruit. He knows his state inside and out. He loves Clemson. I would take Monty Lee. If somebody fired Monty Lee, I can tell you somebody else can fire their coach to hire him.
Yeah, I agree.
I promise you that.
I think the situation with Monty right now is very similar to where Martin was with Gamecock basketball, right? I mean, the reasons of why they're a good coach and what their track record says and what the potential is, should be, expectations should be, all of that balanced off with, well, how many times you go into the tournament? How many times you going deep in that tournament? It's a very similar conversation. I agree with you. I don't think he should be on the hot seat right now, but I do think that there are parallels in those 2 conversations.
I think that's a really good point. I do. And they've gone through a lot this year. They've had injury bugaboos before the season started. Karen Meredith was hurt to start the year. They've got some young guys. Look at Caden Grice right there in the middle, man. I mean, that kid is going to be a freshman All-American. He's really, really good. And they've got some really talented young arms. They're a dangerous team. If they can get going, they can be dangerous. They've got ample opportunity to make this tournament. They got Georgia tomorrow. Georgia's a tournament team right now. Yep. You got Wake. You got Louisville at home. What a great opportunity. Louisville never plays well at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Never. They never play well up there. And so that's going to be a huge series at the end of April, beginning of May. They got a game against USC Upstate. By the way, that's important. They got South Carolina still left on the schedule. They got to go to Florida State. I mean, there are major opportunities for them to bump that 74 RPI and get some wins under their belt. They're going to have to prove it. So I would say let it play out. But is he on the hot seat? Nah, man. I'm not going to ever go that far and say that about Monty unless I have real information that he is.
Right.
Elsewhere around the state, USC Upstate at this point in time probably considered a tournament team. If they win their conference, they've had some scuffles. They're going to probably have to win it. The Big South.
Didn't Charleston Southern just sweep them?
Took 2 of 3.
2 of 3. Okay.
Yeah. It's, Coastal, they're not considered in at this point in time, Darren. They've got work to do. And I know that Coastal is awfully proud of what they've built up there, but they've got work to do. If you slide and look at the Sun Belt, and where Coastal Carolina is, a team obviously with a national championship under their belt, they're at 3-6, and that puts them at 5th place in the East. 17-13 overall. And it's not a good it's not a good league this year. Louisiana, the Lafayette's pretty good. Everybody else isn't any good. So they're gonna have to win more than likely the tournament championship for Coastal in order to get into it. College of Charleston had a nice weekend, but they're gonna need some work down the stretch. So right now, there's one sure bet in the Palmetto State.
Yeah,
and that's rare. It's South Carolina. That's it.
Yeah, college will have to win that CAA tournament. That's typically not a 2-bid league unless they're typically unusually strong. They're not this year. So yeah, you're right. I mean, Carolina's the only team that right now you can sit there and say, I know they're in. That's it.
Of those, Upstate, Clemson, Coastal, the College, of those teams, who do you think has the best chance to get in?
A tie, the College and Upstate. The college is playing well right now. Remember, they hammered Clemson. Then they just had another good weekend. It seems like they're trending in the right way. And then Upstate, because they should win that tournament. That they should be the team coming out of the Big South. Now, they're not playing as well as they were at the beginning of the year. And I pointed this out on social media yesterday when, remember, early in the year when Upstate was, I don't know, like 3-0, 8-0, whatever they were. And I said, well, is it the best mid-major in the state? A loaded mid-major state for baseball. And I got some blowback of, well, are they a mid-major? How are you defining that? Yeah, well, they're not the best team in the state. They are mid-major, but they should win the Big South.
I think it's Clemson. I think it's Clemson, man. First of all, I think they're talented enough to do it. And remember, they play well. Monty's his teams have made major runs. They won one, the ACC tournament. So if they can win a couple of these series, maybe get a win tomorrow night against Georgia, Upstate, you start getting up into the, closer to the 30 win, 28, 29, 30 wins.
In a better conference.
Yeah, I think you're looking at maybe a 3 seed on the road somewhere, certainly. Maybe a 4. That's rare. But maybe a 3 on the road somewhere. But Darren, I think it's Clemson personally.
Well, that's a good point. But because they've got more of a leash to play with. They don't have to go win the ACC tournament. They just got to improve their resume. The College and Upstate, they have to go win their tournaments.
Right. Exactly. That's my point. Yeah. So we'll see how it all unfolds. FCS football this weekend. Charleston Southern beat Gardner-Webb 20-7, 2-2. So the Bucks finished. How about that? Really good stuff for Coach Denson and Coach Barber and that football program. 2-2, of course, now in the Big South. They will look ahead to the fall. VMI over the Citadel this weekend, 31-17. Dogs finished 2-10, 2-6 in the SoCon. VMI is in the postseason as well. They drew third-seeded James Madison. More on that in a little bit. PC over Drake, 28-24. Presbyterian 4-3. They finish with a winning record, 4-2 in the Pioneer League as well. So congratulations to the Blue Hose, and also congratulations to South Carolina State. They hit the road for Delaware State this weekend. They win it 31-28. Dogs finish 3-1, 2-0 in the MEAC. So good spring season for them as well. And as we mentioned, the FCS playoffs are set. I think Darren's got some of them up there on the screen now. The top seeds, South Dakota State is the 1 seed. Sam Houston State checks in as the number 2 seed. James Madison is the 3 seed. Jacksonville State is the 4 seed. And it is a 16-team playoff this year. If VMI is able to get through James Madison, they will play the winner of Missouri State and 4-1 North Dakota. All of the first-round games coming up this Saturday are on ESPN3. TV announcements have not been made for the quarterfinals, so we don't know what that looks like. But the semifinals and the championship game will be nationally televised. The championship game on May 16th is on ABC at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. And the previous week, the games will be selected via ESPN, ESPN2, or ABC, all in different time slots. So more on that here down the road. All right, it is time for a timeout. The national anthem's up next. When we return on the other side of that, it's Collyn Taylor with Gamecock Central. Luke Doty just got done meeting with the media. We'll give you some insight as to what the Gamecocks' presumptive starting quarterback had to say ahead of his first spring game as titled starting quarterback for Carolina. We'll look ahead into the spring game. We'll talk some baseball and much, much more right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
All right, 104 for Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. It is April the 19th. I'm JB. That is Darren Goldwater, of course, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. Make sure you've downloaded the JB and Goldwater app where you can watch and listen to our program daily. Head to jbandgoldwatershow.com. Across all social media platforms, at JB and Goldwater individually, at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. Thanks to Skyler Mead for joining us, as he generally does on Mondays in that first hour. We do have Josh Pate coming up here in less than 30 minutes, but first, the handsome gentleman to the top left of your screen is Collyn Taylor via Zoom with Gamecock Central. You don't look like Wes Mitchell. You look better than him. I'm glad he's not here today. What's up, man?
I appreciate that. I missed the memo on the hat, the hat day, but if I was going to wear one, I'd probably have a Cubs hat on. That's not too excited about it. Appreciate you having me on.
Oh, well, we thank you, man, for you're not a pinch hitter. I don't want to call it that. It's like we need a big bop off the bench. Like sometimes you consider pinch hitters like maybe below the guys in the lineup. We don't consider you that. We just need you to hit a home run because Wes hasn't been hitting any of those.
I hate to do this, but I think you guys muted or something. I can't hear what y'all are saying real quick.
Maybe you muted.
It could be on. It could
can't
be
hear
on.
you.
Really, you can't hear us, huh?
Okay, we can try that back.
We're good.
Tyler asked if Collyn is in the hair club. Can you hear us now? How about that? Nope.
So here's we're gonna kick you from the studio, and you can just jump on back in.
We'll kick you out. We'll get you right back in here. 105 on this Monday afternoon. If you're a golf fan, Palmetto Championship tickets are on sale. Of course, that's coming up here in Ridgeland, South Carolina in just a few weeks. Stuart Sink was in South Carolina this weekend. He won for the third time the RBC Heritage down in Hilton Head. A special week for him. His son was also the caddy. So that was really neat to see with Stuart Sink down in Hilton Head. At Harbortown Golf Links, 19 under. Stuart Sink was one shot from scoring in the 60s all 4 rounds. A 70 is what he posted yesterday to finish 4 ahead of Harold Varner III and Emiliano Grillo in golf. So congratulations to him. Again, we'll get Collyn Taylor back here in just a moment. He obviously heard us when we started that conversation. Luke Doty and 3 other players, Connor Jordan, I think Dylan Wonham, and Trey Adkins all met with the media this morning. I know a lot of folks are going to be excited to hear or anxious to hear what Luke Doty had to say in his media appearance. So we're going to get an update on that. Carolina will scrimmage this coming weekend in the spring game for the final time. They did scrimmage this past weekend. That game at 2:00 will be televised on the SEC Network Plus if you're not able to be one of the 15,000 that will be in attendance at Williams-Brice Stadium. Before we get Collyn back in here, let me also remind you that it is Power Hour on our program, powered by Wando Power Equipment. You can head to wandopower.com. They also have financing available if you need one of the Bryson DeChambeau's of zero-turn mowers like the Hustler Raptor series. You can rent trailers. You can rent aerators, you can rent stump grinders, you can rent anything that you need to rent as well. Wando Power Equipment, of course, everything is also available for purchase there. That's where I get all my stuff, like my chainsaw that I probably need to have them just at least grease up before we get out there and start cutting trees down here before long. But if you head to Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com, of course, they have been powering the Low Country and a lot of the state of South Carolina for over 30 years. All right, do we have Collyn now?
We do. We've got him on the phone.
Okay, we're going to plug Collyn in over the hair. It was the hair. Generally, Wes has his hair all diced up for us on Mondays, and Collyn couldn't get to the beauty parlor, so he's going to jump on the cell phone with us. What's up, man?
How we doing? Sorry about that. My internet decides to wig out sometimes, so you caught me on a bad day.
That's all right.
Ours does too.
Mine does all the time. Well, hey, let's jump in here. So Luke Doty just met with the media a little while ago. What did he have to say?
He was Luke Doty. Talked a lot about how excited he was about this offense. Talked about getting to actually play in front of fans and 15,000 of them Saturday and get back out there and show the fan base what they've been working on since they got back on campus in January. But one of the biggest things I think he talked about was just his comfortability in this playbook, in what Marcus Satterfield wants to do, and said things are opening up in terms of just windows for him. He feels so much more comfortable in this offense compared to what he was when they started this thing back in late March. So it was a very confident, it was a very collected and energetic Luke Doty, but we've come to expect that from a guy like him.
His teammates seemingly have embraced the fact that he's the presumptive starting quarterback. Collyn, what are his teammates saying about him?
I mean, just that I know it's still a competition and you have some good quarterbacks in that room, but they're talking about him as if he's QB1. Mm-hmm. His leadership style is something that keeps coming up every time we talk to his teammates about him. They say he's a natural leader, a guy that's bringing a lot of energy to practice and to games and to all of that. So, yeah, the way they talked about him today, especially, it sounded like he's QB1, and we obviously know he's been taking a lot of the first-team reps with the quarterbacks this spring.
How about the offense? This is an offense that none of us have seen. We'll see it Saturday. How much of it will we see? I don't know. I'm going to venture a guess here that it's not all the way installed, and even if it was, Marcus Satterfield and Shane Beamer aren't going to drop every play they have in the book on national television on April 24th, a few months before the season is set to begin. But what have you heard on that end, and how has Luke Doty described this offense under Coach Satterfield and the rest of that staff?
Yeah, I mean, they've used all the buzzwords that you want them to use. They want to be multiple. They want to dictate the tempo. They want to, sub in personnel and create some mismatches. The way I think Zaquandre White described it is probably the closest thing to what it's going to be, and that's just a NFL pro-style offense where you have some mixing of personnel, but an offense that relies heavily on a run game, which South Carolina is going to be really good in the run game this year with that offensive line and those backs. And then some NFL route combinations where guys have different choices in terms of coverages on what they can run in their route tree. And I think you're going to see a lot of that. Do I think you're going to see that on full display Saturday? No, but they're talking about it as if they want to, bring in a bunch of different people, have a bunch of different kind of formations and ways to score. But I think it's going to be predicated first and foremost on running the ball with guys like Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd.
I've heard of those guys. They're pretty good.
Yeah.
What about
pretty okay running backs, right?
Yeah, I know. They're not too shabby from what we understand. But how about a couple of those other guys? I mean, you mentioned Zaquandre. He's a kid. Obviously I think a few of us were really following his recruitment. Talented young man. He's a big team guy. We all know that. Rashad Amos flashed at the end of last year. I know that with Zaquandre, they really want to work on, don't fumble the football. That thing's important when you've got it in your hands. You need to keep it there, at least till you cross the goal line. So when you look at that group, I know Juju McDowell's coming in. So it's a pretty deep stable of backs. Has Luke been asked about the backfield and these guys, and what has he had to say about his teammates?
Yeah, he's been very complimentary of obviously Kevin Harris because we all saw what Kevin could do and the energy that Zaquandre brings. Everyone's been complimentary of that. I mean, Zaquandre White's had nothing but positive things said about him in terms of energy and ability on the football field. And I mean, Marshawn's a guy that it's everything you've heard seems like it's been corroborated just in terms of leadership and buy-in and want to pair that with some freakish athleticism and a 5-star, freshman coming in. You pair that with the leadership, and he has the makings to be a special player if that all comes to fruition this year. But everyone's been complimentary of the running backs. That's going to be a strength of this team, and they've mentioned. I know Marcus Satterfield did about getting multiple running backs on the field at the same time. Monty Hardesty said the same thing. So they're going to try to get as many running backs on the field together to try to create those mismatches and create some differing styles of play when you have two of them on the field at the same time.
Collyn Taylor, Gamecock Central, 1:13 Monday afternoon. Collyn, we always, every program in the country talks about the quarterbacks in the spring and the quarterbacks in the fall, and I say everybody, but each program has their own set of circumstances and situations that they work through. Last year, leading into the season, there seemingly was a pretty heated quarterback competition. You had Ryan Helinski in there, and you had Collin Hill in there, and everybody felt like Luke Doty was maybe a step or two behind, but he obviously was a talented kid. But it came down it seemed like at least, who was going to start between Hill and Helinski. Prior to, Jake Bentley was the starting quarterback of South Carolina. Of course, he went down, and Helinski had to pop in as a true freshman. And now you got this situation here where you do have four quarterbacks, remember, working out there. Connor Jordan's also had a pretty decent spring, according to Shane Beamer. But Colton Gauthier, he's a freshman. Jason Brown transfers in. You generally don't bring in transfer quarterbacks just to sit around, but he certainly added depth. But as you mentioned, the presumptive starter is Luke Doty. So this situation in Columbia has changed a little bit. Has anybody spoken to the coaching staff about that, like whether that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's just the circumstances of it. I think it would be more concerning if Luke Doty wasn't the clear-cut favorite at the end of spring right now, just because you have these new guys coming in. Jason Brown's still trying to get adjusted to SEC life and the speed and precision it takes. And Colton Gauthier is a freshman, probably drinking water out of a fire hose right now when it comes to all that stuff. So, Shane and Luke Doty, obviously it's a new system for everybody, but he's been through it a little bit. He understands the practice habits, the weight room, the time management it takes. So, Luke Doty, for all intents and purposes, should have been considered the, presumptive favorite just because he has that leg up a little bit. And, went into spring kind of knowing what to expect more so than the two other guys. So, but Shane Beamer's been very complimentary of Luke Doty, very complimentary of the way he's able to run the offense. And that's kind of what at least I expected coming out of the spring, is that Luke Doty would at least be in the running and at near the top of the pecking order. And what I'm intrigued to see is when people start to reconvene for training camp this August, does Jason Brown make a push now that he's been on campus a little bit more? Does Colton Gauthier take a step forward? That's when you're really going to see how far those two have come and how far Luke's come over the next couple months as they get into summer and player run practices.
No matter who's at quarterback, Collyn, we've seen it around here before. If you don't have anybody standing in front of you that stop the guys from trying to get to you, those offensive lineman type guys, it doesn't work out very well for you. You could put anybody you want back there, and if they're not any good up front, then you're going to have some problems. Carolina does return 9 guys who have starting experience at South Carolina. One of them also spoke with the media today. That's Dylan Wonham. How has he or did he summarize his group, the offensive line, this spring?
Yeah, they've been working really well. He's doing a little bit of both in terms of right versus left tackle, primarily at right, but says their experience that, echo the same stuff probably Greg Adkins and every other offensive lineman said, and their experience, and I hope that experience translates to, what they do in the fall. And it was a group last year that was obviously, you don't get a 1,000-yard rusher without being good up front and run blocking, but a group that needs to get better in pass pro. They struggled last year protecting the quarterback. You saw the Colin Hill, you saw the little with Luke Doty, and that was something that at least Dylan Wonham talked about getting better with him, is his footwork and pass protection and making sure that they're protecting the quarterback at a high level throughout practice, and then obviously into this summer and then into games this fall.
Well, they're going up against Jordan Birch and J.J. Enigbare and a bunch of big names on the defensive line. It's a group that people have been fairly high on thus far in the spring. What did Dylan Wonham and what have other offensive linemen had to say about their counterparts on the D line for Carolina?
It's tough. You don't go up against, an all-SEC defensive end like J.J. Enigbare or a 5-star freshman like, Jordan Birch, or heck, even Aaron Sterling, who, might not get the credit he deserves for being a very productive player for 4 straight seasons when he's been healthy. So they, even Shane Beamer, when he talked after the scrimmage on Saturday, said, listen, we've struggled to get the ball down the field, explosive play-wise in the passing game, but let's give our defense credit for part of that, because, when they're rushing the passer, you have to make a judgment call on sacks, and they're getting after him quick, and it's causing some problems. So it's been a good group. Clayton White gushed over them, said that they're the best group on the defense so far this spring when he talked to us, and has been very impressed with them and tried to tamper expectations, but you could hear how excited he was about that group when he talked about them earlier in the spring.
As it pertains to the spring game, Collyn, coming up on Saturday, 2:00, Williams-Brice Stadium. It will be televised on the SEC Network Plus for those that won't be there. As it pertains to this, though, what are your storylines as we work through the week and towards this finish to spring practice for South Carolina? What will you specifically be looking for in this ballgame?
Yeah, obviously the offensive crispness, the efficiency, kind of how they dictate tempo, what they do with that. I know you're not going to get every answer offensively with that, but just seeing how it operates and seeing obviously who comes out with the first team, second team, all that. But then, for me, it's the combinations that they put out there, especially in the secondary, because it's a group that's obviously thin. What combinations does that look like? What combinations do they use on the offensive line? Because that's kind of indicative of how they're at least thinking at the end of April of how things might play out in August and September. So the combinations, how the offense works, what the defense looks like in terms of aggression, in terms of, I don't know if they're going to blitz or not, or how that rule is going to work. We'll find out obviously more from Shane Beamer tomorrow on that. But if the defense is aggressive, how they kind of try to maybe mix some looks if they're allowed to do that. And, just Luke Doty. What does Luke Doty look like a few months removed from his freshman year and now into a different system? Because there's no shortage of offensive storylines, and then figuring out defensively what it's going to look like, the combinations they're going to use, especially on the back end.
Marshawn Lloyd, by the way, will not play in the spring game, right?
Right. He's kind of admitted that he's not going to, and kind of take things slow to make sure he's 100% for training camp this fall.
Well, I'm anxious to see how many times they're going to throw to the tight end on Saturday. Isn't that what we're all concerned about?
Well, yeah. I mean, if covering Collyn shows the last 5 years has taught me anything, they need to throw to the tight end every single time they drop it.
And never huddle.
Well, they have 19 of them now. I mean, theoretically, they could put all tight ends on the field if they want to. They won't have any choice but to throw to one of them, Collyn. So, I mean, they might do that.
They might build Shane Beamer a statue if he lines up with 4 tight ends on the field at the same time in the I formation with 4 tight ends. They might honestly build him a statue on April 25th.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I don't have my notes in front of me. Does Shane have any meetings with the media this week before the spring game? I'm trying to look. Doesn't look like it.
Yeah, so he'll meet with us. He'll meet with us tomorrow to kind of go over the plan for what the spring game looks like, and then we'll get coordinators on Thursday.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, why don't you ask him about that tomorrow? Ask him if he'll do that. Collyn, if you know anything about Shane, he will appreciate that type of question.
Yeah, Shane is a guy that understands. I think Josh Kendall asked him something similar, and he laughed at it on Saturday after the scrimmage because he listens to all that stuff. He's been parts of Collyn shows. He gets it.
There's no question. I think you should ask him. Put that on your docket and ask him if you have a package to run out 4 or 5 tight ends at one time. That would be sensational. All right, let's slide to baseball, then we'll let you run. Okay, brother. Is there any update? And everybody's asking the question. Everybody, Collyn, cut on TV this weekend. They watch games in Tennessee. They watch games in Alabama. They watch games in Baton Rouge. They watch games in Mississippi. They watch games all over the country, Texas, you name it, and the stands were full. And people are trying to figure out, what are we doing in Columbia, South Carolina, and why is it taking so long? Is there any update as to what attendance figures could look like? Are they considering increasing them? Number one, Arkansas comes to town this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're considering it and going through all the options. We haven't heard any imminent plans at the moment to increase things. Never going to say never on something like that, but it's not just the university going through. They have to get state approval to do some different things, and it's not just as simple as saying, okay, we're going to let 5,000 people in or 6, whatever that number is. There's a process they have to go through, and I'm not sure where South Carolina is in that process, if they've even started it in terms of trying to get more fans in. But I think it'd be great to get some more in. I obviously know that there's risks that come with that. But I mean, just thinking about atmosphere wise, with more people in there, with the number one team coming into town, it'd be something. But I understand if they don't, just because of all the risk that comes with it.
All right, it is Arkansas. Darren and I were talking about this earlier. Carolina, Collyn, as much as any team in the SEC and any team across the country, the Gamecocks literally control what their future looks like. Right now, they're assured a regional host, basically, with their resume. But they could win their way all the way into one of the top seeds in the country, because you got Arkansas, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Tennessee, all still left on this schedule. Got to go to Kentucky. They also could not play well, and they could probably tumble down a little bit. But this team they've been something. They're 9-1 in game 2s and 3s in the league. Game 1s haven't been very kind to them. They're trying to maybe change that a little bit this week. The only win they had went 14 innings against Florida. But as you've covered Carolina baseball, over the last few years, and we've seen these transitions from Coach Tanner and then into Coach Holbrook and now into Bart Kingston, there's some excitement in this program, I think, that's been missing for a while. What does it feel like around the team when you are?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fun group And I wish that I've mentioned this to people. It'd be fun if this wasn't a COVID year and we had a little bit more in-person access instead of having to do some stuff on Zoom, because I think fans would thoroughly enjoy this team, thoroughly enjoy just how fun it is, how loose it is. These are a group of guys that really get along, and it translates onto the baseball field. I mean, they find ways to win, and there are a lot of ways. Frank Martin always says, a season teaches a team how to win or how to lose. And I mean, I don't think there's any question that South Carolina's found ways to win, and they've learned how to win really close games. I mean, going back to Clemson and going back to the Florida game, and then game one of the doubleheader Saturday against LSU when you're down to your final 3 outs. And it's just been a fun group, and it reminds you a little bit, not saying they're going to win a national title, but it reminds you of those 2010 and 2011 teams that just found ways to scrap out wins. And we're going to learn a lot over the next couple weeks about how good this team is and the potential of it, because you're playing some national championship level good teams, with a lot of those coming to Founders Park for some 3-game sets.
Yeah, they haven't played Arkansas since 2008, Collyn, or 2018. 7 times they met up that year. They were defeated in Fayetteville in a 2-1 series win for the Hogs. Of course, they saw each other again in Hoover. That didn't end well for the Gamecocks, and then took them to Game 3 of a Super Regional before Arkansas would move on to Omaha, Nebraska. Of course, Carolina came home. That was Mark Kingston's first year at South Carolina. Took them all the way within 1 game of the grandest stage in college baseball. But the last time that Arkansas showed up in Columbia, it was 2016, and Carolina swept them right out of there. They sent them in those little stupid-looking hog pig suey hats right on back to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and felt pretty good about that. But before we let you go, let's talk about what just happened here. I made the comment earlier, Collyn, that it doesn't matter if LSU's 0-50 or 50-0. It is really ridiculously hard to win in Baton Rouge. And they were 2 outs away from losing the series, and then decided, the hell with it. You know what? Or 3 outs away from losing the series. Yeah, the hell with this thing. Let's go ahead and let's put some big knocks together. And they did that. Single, bunt, double, tie. Brady Allen gets a big knock lead, and then Game 3 was over when it started, essentially. That tells you something. When you look at that game, the end of the Game 2, you look at what happened in Game 3 up in Nashville, Collyn. What do those games mean to you as you've covered this team? How have they kind of defined who they are?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to kind of what I said earlier, when they just find ways to win, and they find ways to scrap and claw and win in late innings. And listen, we all love series wins, and South Carolina's won 4 out of their first 5, which is absolutely fantastic. But over the course of an SEC season, you look back after your 30 games and said, well, if we just won one more game, if we had won, 1 out of 3 and not get swept, or find a way to scrap across the win, and win a series that we should have won, we could be hosting, or we could be a national seed, or, we could be in the tournament. And when you win a game like Game 3 at Vanderbilt, when you win a game like Game 2 against LSU, those are big wins for a resume. Those are big wins for your overall SEC record. And the magic number is always 15 to get to 500, and you're in the conversation to host and make the tournament. South Carolina's 10-5 in their first 5, and obviously you need only 5 more wins to get to 500, and anything after that is you're in conversation for hosting and being a national seed. And South Carolina's positioned really well. So finding ways to win has been this team's bread and butter all year, and I don't see why that changes anytime soon. And they're going to have to do it against some really, really good teams over the next couple of weeks.
They have been something special. 24-10 are the Gamecocks, currently ranked 11th by D1Baseball.com. Razorbacks come to town Thursday, Friday, Saturday at Founders Park this weekend. And we'll see. I'm assuming, Collyn, at some point in time in the next 24 hours or so, if they're going to increase attendance, they need to announce it so people can pick up those tickets. But we know you've got that covered. So we'll just be watching your Twitter account and see what happens. And maybe you can break some news for us.
Absolutely. Hopefully we got some, there's a good, nice little story in the works, hopefully, for this weekend that I'm excited about. So hopefully that comes to fruition and we'll get to talk about it soon.
We missed it this weekend at my daughter's party. The Dino chicken nuggets were calling your name.
Oh,
come on. You can't do that to me, man. I'm trying to find some healthy stuff to eat and all this. And now I got to think about making Dino chicken nuggets instead. I was going to have a nice turkey sandwich, and now I got to have my Dino chicken nuggets.
Do you eat mac and cheese with those?
Sometimes, I'm not a big Kraft mac and cheese fan. I can't do the powdered mac and cheese. If it's going to be something, it has to be
homemade?
Velveeta if I'm doing the easy mac stuff. So a little bit more time intensive.
Yeah, Darren, he'd be dead if he didn't have Kraft mac and cheese. Apparently,
yeah.
So I'm a homemade mac and cheese guy. I don't like any of the box crap. Give me the homemade stuff.
Yeah, see, if I can go homemade, I'm going homemade every day of the week. But every now and again, listen, I'm only a couple years removed from college. You can take, you can take college, me away from college, but you're not going to take those eating habits away so soon. So,
well,
you have to have a couple of those Velveeta, or Crafts stocked away in a pantry somewhere just in case.
Even when you get older, man, the pantry still has them. I promise.
Let me throw this at you. What we need to do you like the mac and cheese at Bojangles?
Again,
do you like the mac and cheese at Bojangles?
It's good, yeah.
Okay, all right. That's all you need to say. We need to one up Yuva. We need to one up Mr. Hairgel himself. Ooh. What we need to do is go to Bojangles and get him to give us a Bowberry biscuit, slap one of the Cajun filet biscuit or a piece of chicken on it.
Yeah.
And then put mac and cheese on top of it.
Ooh.
What about, we could do something like a Bojangles casserole where we get the dirty rice,
with that
Cajun seasoning, the mac and cheese, and then you sprinkle on top the Cajun chicken tenders. And then we're cooking with gas at that point.
I'm in. Anything
You're totally still in college.
Yeah, dude. Hey, I'm in. Anything we can do to pull this spotlight off of Yuva. We've got to find a way to undercut him, right? We can't let this crap go on. This is getting ridiculous.
No, absolutely. And anything that does that and then helps clog my arteries a little bit or put on some weight, that's icing on the cake at that point.
Yeah, that's right. Welcome to the club. Yeah, I agree, man. All right, so we'll work on that. We'll Darren and I will run down to the local Bojangles today, and we'll buy a bunch of stuff, put it all together, and see which one we like the best, and we'll call you, and we'll figure this thing out. We'll do exactly what Mike did. We'll call it an accident. Oh, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
It was an accident. Yeah.
And then we'll get our own commercials, and I'm intrigued now for next March Madness when we get to go up against the Yuva with our Bojangles casserole.
That's right.
At this point, see if we can win it.
It's the 15-2 coming in strong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what? If that means we're the 15 and we go on a Oral Roberts Florida Gulf Coast run, I am A-okay with it.
Done.
No question. I'll take the 7-seeded South Carolina Gamecock from 2017. I'll take that. All right. We'll let you run on that note, Collyn. Thank you so much, man. I said we wouldn't call you a pinch hitter, but we'll call you one because you hit a grand slam. So congratulations. You won the game. You won the afternoon for us.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
There you go. Collyn Taylor with Gamecock Central. All right. We got to hit a break. When we return, Josh Pate. Told you it was full up around here today. Skylar Meade, Collyn Taylor, Josh Pate, right here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every 2021 Tiguan, $3,500 off. Every 2021 Atlas, $5,300 off. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save $5,300 on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at Mcfadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about Mcfadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Spring is officially here, and there's no better place to bring it in than the Dog and Duck. 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Park West, Bell Hall, and Clemens Ferry Road, all of them with gorgeous outdoor seating to take advantage of their daily food and drink specials. Through the end of April, $5 Sweetwater pints. Food specials like Taco Tuesday and the Game Day Burger every Wednesday. It's all available at Dog and Duck. There are 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clemens Ferry Road.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box. You know who you're talking to. I'm talking to the juice box guy. You're crazy.
Now, JB and Goldwater, live in the Low Country.
Final segment, Monday afternoon. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Thanks to Gamecock Central's Collyn Taylor there in that last segment. Skylar Meade, of course, in hour number 1. And last but not least, he's our 3-hole hitter, Josh Pate, of course, owner of the Late Kick podcast with Josh Pate and part of the 24/7 Sports Network, one of the more respected football minds out there in media. Believe it or not, Josh, when people say that, it might scare you, but it's true. What's up, man?
Yeah, it scares me, but a lot of things scare me these days. It's okay. I do have an unrelated question, though, as we get started. So I heard the bumper music was Hooting, which is popular around there. If you took a consensus, if you polled your entire audience, what would be the number 1 Hooting the Blowfish song?
That one.
Yeah, definitely that one.
Hold My Hand.
Why?
Because it's one of the early ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that made Hootie, didn't it?
Well, yeah, okay, I can't argue that. I've always thought Time was their best song.
Oh, I love that.
Well, you're not going to get an argument about that. I just think that the most popular song would be Hold My Hand or Let Her Cry.
Yeah, listen, I was in a band called 85 South, and one of the first songs we ever played at the talent show at Harris County High School in 11th grade was Let Her Cry. And we got jilted, by the way, completely robbed in that talent show. But I don't think we want to go down that road, because this is the last segment, so let's end on a high note.
I'll pass that along to Darius. Get Darius on the line.
You got it.
He's actually been in town. Matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, he just popped in out of the Windjammer and just started playing music on a Saturday afternoon or something, whatever day it was. So yeah, Josh, we'll bring you to town. We'll get you with Darius, and we'll let y'all collaborate on the next version of Let Her Cry.
Okay, so I accomplished what I really wanted to with this call. Now everything else is great.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right, man. Hey, wanted to take a dance around the SEC and pretty much anything else is pertinent in your mind to college football as we start to kind of wrap up spring practice for everybody across the country. We'll start with Bama. They played this weekend. I think they're the only team in the Southeastern Conference that was able to make it, Saturday afternoon national television. Everybody else just stuck on those little SEC Network Plus channels. Nobody cares about those, but Bama right there, front and center, ESPN. So Bryce Young's your starting quarterback. What'd you think about him?
Well, what I thought apparently is a little bit different or detached from what many people thought. So they were missing like 20 guys or something like that. I know maybe if you didn't know that and you watched them, maybe you couldn't tell, but they were missing a lot of their frontline guys. And regardless or irregardless, I'm told is a word now, I thought Bryce Young looked really good. I thought for spring game context, which I find every year is important to use as the filter for this conversation, he validated everything you'd want to see, just like JT Daniels at Georgia validated everything you want to see. I mean, I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and he's going to have a whole heck of a lot more folks to throw to than he did Saturday. And even having said that, had some good plays Saturday. But I think it's one of those situations. They got one at Bama right now. A few other folks, North Carolina, that is sort of in your neck of the woods, has this situation of bringing in a really highly touted 4 or 5-star type guy, but they don't have to play immediately. In their case, it's May. In this case, it's Young. And so they get to sit a year, and then they're coming into the following spring, and you know it's going to be a first-year starter, but yet they have total grasp of the offense. And so everything's a mechanics, a familiarity. Basically, it's kind of window dressing. You're not having to fine-tune the actual nuts and bolts of hopefully what will be a good quarterback. Like I think he's going to be a really good quarterback this year. So I came away validated and got what I expected.
How good do you have to be, though, right? I mean, you know, at Alabama, I mean, Josh, you've been covering this team a long time. I mean, we've seen guys. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what everybody thought about Mac Jones in last year's spring game, but when you cut on game number 1 and realize what was out there running around him, Mac Jones was going to be pretty good no matter what happened. How good do you have to be the quarterback at Alabama these days?
Well, you got to be a good decision maker, but I'm glad you mentioned Jones, because if that's the new standard, then I can go back a year and I can tell you even some folks close to the program looked at that knowing Bryce Young had just come in, and they thought it was a matter of time. Maybe Mac Jones starts week 1 or 2, but it's going to be one of those situations like it was with Tua his freshman year, where we feel like the entire time we're just asking, not if, but when is the switch going to happen? Well, you saw early on with Mac Jones, he had that job by the throat. He wasn't letting it go. But then you watched what he did. And you remember you had relatively mild expectation levels for Mac Jones, and he obviously surpassed it times 10. He was a Heisman Trophy finalist and through to the Heisman Trophy winner. And so I think if that's the standard, then you look at a guy that you assume has superstar potential and say, well, if Mac Jones could do that in this offense, what will Bryce Young do? Well, then the devil's advocate over in the corner may say, let's finish that sentence. Yeah, what will Bryce Young do, ... without Jerry Jeudy, or in this year's version, Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith? Well, that's where I had the separation with a bunch of other folks, because I was reading some of the back and forth on message boards and Twitter, and even some post-game articles and whatnot about Alabama. There's a perception out there that their receiver room is really going to be down this year. And maybe it's just from people watching the spring game, and maybe they're not reading day-to-day practice reports. Dude, their receiver room is going to be loaded again this year. You watched a G.A. Hall emerge and will be a surefire superstar true freshman. You saw that Saturday. You know about John Mechie. You know about Jaleel Billingsley, kind of a freakish tight end. They were without JoJo Earl Saturday, Christian Leary, Ja'Cory Brooks. All these are 4- and 5-star guys that you didn't even see on the field. They're going to be loaded again. I don't really know at all, to be honest with you, where that perception is coming from, other than maybe just lack of research, and let's take what I saw Saturday, and that's going to be my expectation level.
Josh Pate, 143 on the JB and Goldwater show on this Monday afternoon. As we kind of drive around a little bit, let's peek at Auburn. So Mike Bobo is their offensive coordinator. Derek Mason signed as the DC, and they both, of course, work under Brian Harsin. I saw some jokes coming from the Plains this weekend. Oh, my God, we're in the huddle. Yeah, that's what happens when Mike Bobo's your OC. But what about Bo Nix in that offense? I mean, is it a transition? I don't know. I mean, obviously, they're two different styles. Does one fit Bo Nix better than the other?
Yeah, it's a transition. That much is true. Now, which system he's a better fit for, I would answer this one, but that's only because it's my default answer, knowing how poor a fit he was for the other. And so what they did Saturday is they're only, at that point, 14 practices in. What they did, though, is they tested him, but they didn't test him a lot with route concepts or anything like that mechanically. Those weren't the tests. The tests were, they asked him to do a lot of things he's never done before. And a lot of it is checks at the line of scrimmage. A lot of it just centered around having him control tempo, having him control checks, instead of what Gus Malzahn's system would have him do, which is, or any quarterback in Malzahn's system, look to the sideline and let the sideline do all the thinking for you. So all you do is react. All you do is play. You know, you take care of the physical part, we'll take care of the mental part. Well, number one, not to be surprised here, the NFL hates that. And number two, it's just not a way to maximize the development of a quarterback, period. So they started that. The big question around there, you talk to anyone around the Auburn program, all spring it's been, how much are we going to have to deprogram him being Bo Nix, before we start reprogramming him? And so I don't know what they feel about that. I'm sure they're not disappointed, because I thought he handled himself okay. Like, I think they're okay with where they are. But the problem at Auburn is going to be, they got one of the worst receiver rooms in the conference. I mean, they're down there. They don't have a top 10 receiver room in the SEC. And so if they don't attack the portal, and if they don't have a lot of guys develop mightily over the offseason, or the summer rather, I'm not sure exactly what his ceiling is, even if he does develop above expectations. So Auburn's going to have to, that's why when you mentioned Derek Mason there as the defensive coordinator, Derek Mason's going to have to be the one probably that shines for them this year. And that's one of my spotlight guys I'm paying closest attention to. Everyone thinks he's a good defensive coach. I do as well. But no one knows what kind of recruiter he is, because he came from Vanderbilt and Stanford. And even if you're a great recruiter, it doesn't really show on the national level there. But it could show finally at Auburn. And he's at a place now where, like, academics aren't this massive Hoover Dam of a wall to have to overcome to get guys in. So I really think Derek Mason's one of the hidden keys out of any of the hires that were made coming into this spring.
That wall isn't much bigger than the 6-foot privacy fence I have in my backyard, Josh. No offense to Auburn fans, but there's some truth in that statement.
Gosh, it's chain link, so you can slide through it too.
It's more like a white picket fence. You just hop over it. Hey, you're in school at Auburn. No, I'm kidding, everybody. Golly. Okay. I agree with you there. By the way, another quick joke that I want to throw into the conversation. Wait, Mike Bobo is in charge of an offense for the second year in a row that doesn't have a good wide receiver room. There's a bunch of people who are laughing about it because it just happened at South Carolina, but give him time and he'll be able to fix that. All right, let's. I know I'm kind of dancing with you today, but there's just so many of these, so many questions and conversations you can have. So I'm going to try to spin it as quickly as I can with what truly matters at some of these schools. How about Georgia? JT Daniels, basically, essentially, I guess, going through the spring as the starting quarterback. What does that mean to the Dogs program?
Here's what it means. Imagine this. We're doing this 3 years ago. Just pick a time frame and imagine looking into the future, knowing what the talking points have been. Look into the future and find yourself in a situation down the road where you're going to come into a season and offensive line is going to be a bigger question at Georgia than quarterback. Defensive back is going to be a bigger question at Georgia than quarterback. You're just not used to that. You're used to saying, we got all these offensive linemen. Can we make it count? We got this great defensive lineup, and then defensive backfield normally goes with that lineup. But can we score enough? Well, that's the total inverse of Georgia football right now. I mean, they entered the offseason for the first time ever under Smart without a question mark in the blank of, do they have a championship caliber quarterback? I'm not saying Daniels is on par with this guy, that guy. I'm saying he's good enough to win them a title if everything else is in place. What's the everything else? I mean, they got pushed around, especially on the interior of their offensive line a little bit Saturday, but these spring game formats with Georgia and a lot of other programs, they're pass heavy. So it's frequent that you see some offensive lines look like Swiss cheese in these formats, and they're really, really being undersold because you got a defensive line that can just pin their ears back all afternoon. So you don't really know what to draw. I can tell you long before that spring game, there were some questions, mild, and they were hopeful, but there were questions about that offensive line at Georgia. But the defensive backs, ton of talent, ultra green. This is where Kirby Smart and his coaching staff have to earn their money, because I don't really care how young and inexperienced they are. I know how good they are. I know how talented they are. They wouldn't be there if they weren't. And so that's why you load up a staff with Kirby Smart as your head coach, defensive specialist. You just brought Muschamp in there. He was standing at a corner at a bus stop. You just said, you want to come coach? And so he said, okay, I'll come down there. So he's there. Dan Lanning's there. Like, they've got an entire all-star cast of coaches defensively. They got to get that team ready. And you don't get to wait past week 1 because you got Clemson.
That's great. That's where I was about to say. I was about to mention the same thing. I mean, I don't know how much you've seen out of Clemson. I don't know how much you got a chance to pay attention to what they did in the spring with DJ Uiagalelei, QB. Obviously, they returned talent up and down the lineup, both sides of the football. Josh, when Clemson, I know we're getting out of the SEC a little bit here, but because we kind of brought it up with Georgia in game 1, when Clemson went from like very good to elite, is when they got elite in the trenches, whatever, 7 years ago, when they started recruiting all that talent, when they were going to whip you up front against the big boys, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, whoever you wanted to throw, Ohio State, they were going to be better in the trenches. Is Clemson elite in the trenches in 2021 based on what you've seen?
They don't have elite potential on their offensive line. I do think they have it on their defensive line. Now that's an April take, by the way. So I
right.
But I do think, gotcha. That's what they were talking about last year. Like, they had all those freshmen, ultra talented freshman kids starting on the defensive line, and they were hopeful that they would reach close enough to the ceiling to win a title last year. And they did win an ACC title. But, you looked at them and they would say, these guys are good, but imagine what they'll be this time next year after that. And so now we're in next year. And so the hope there, as a lot of eyeballs nationally focus on DJ Uiagalelei, is to remember, well, we didn't lack at the quarterback position last year. There was a kid that's about to be taken number 1 overall that played for us. Quarterback's not going to be the issue this year in all likelihood. We've already seen him pressed into action, him being DJ, and he's going to be fine. We've got all that talent. Like wide receiver, we can talk about that, but we've got enough talent. Can we own the lines of scrimmage? Because it doesn't, and this is with all due respect, it doesn't matter what we do against Duke. It doesn't matter if we can push maybe Virginia around. It matters when we get in these playoff formats or these playoff situations, and we're looking across the ball, and there is no talent edge. In fact, maybe at specific places, we got a little bit of a talent deficit. Well, you don't need to be saying that if you're Clemson. There's no reason to have a deficit. We're several years in now. The product is proven. And, you get the guys in there, you develop them. That's what they hope will happen defensive line-wise this year. I say that they don't have that elite ceiling on the offensive line. Let's just see. Because I know they push back on that. So let's just wait and see.
One of the teams that they have seen in the postseason before, LSU. Assess LSU after the spring. They finished the year well last year. Beat Florida, upset there, I think, and then 14 or 15-point win over Ole Miss to finish 5-5 after that 10-game SEC schedule in the fall. A little momentum coming into the spring. We all know there's been some pots stirred in Baton Rouge for various different reasons and issues. Assess what you've seen out of the Bayou Bengals.
Well, I think it's one of the best quarterback rooms in the country. I don't know why people push back on this, but they do. They have got 2 guys that they probably trust to play and win for them today. That's Miles Brennan, who will be 100% by the fall. That's Max Johnson. TJ Finley has played for him, but ironically, if they did a true depth chart right now, I think it'd be 4th on their depth chart, because I think they probably trust Garrett Nussmeier and really love his upside more than they do Finley at this point. But my point in saying that is not to say that there's one guy in that room that's going to end up being, better than whoever Ohio State trots out there, Clemson or Alabama, Oklahoma. I'm saying they're going to be good enough. And again, you're used to, in the past, judging LSU by the question of, well, do they have a quarterback or not? And most of the time the answer is no. The one time the answer was yes, they won a title and rewrote the record books. So let's just land somewhere in between, but closer to 2019 than the latter options, and then take our chances. Like, that's what LSU folks are thinking. But as is the case with any team right now, when you come out of spring, you look around and you ask, if it goes bad, why would it go bad? And outside of all the extracurriculars, the off-the-field stuff that no one has a grasp on, I look at them at receiver past Keishon Boutte, who wears number 1 for them. Free marketing advice. Any true freshman, grab number 1 if you can get it, especially now moving forward with NIL. But I look at him, he's great. Like, he's a stud. He's an all-conference type player. Past him, they got some names, but names, as we know, are not depth. Names are names. Proven commodities are depth. And I don't know that they have proven depth at the receiver position. They don't have a running back that's really firmly taken control of that RB1 spot. They've got vulnerability along the interior of their offensive line. And they were terrible defensively last year. Now, he, being Orgeron, keep hitting the pronouns today, he made changes. And he made changes on his coaching staff. And he tried to get as close to 2019 as he could. He brought in Pete as his offensive coordinator, direct ties to Joe Brady. He brought in Durante Jones as a DC, direct ties to Dave Aranda. So we'll see. I think the talent level and the level of ability in that quarterback room makes it hard for me to imagine they're going to be bad again this year. It's also a stretch to suggest that they're going to contend for the West until we answer the questions I just posed.
One of the teams that could contend for the West, and we'll kind of wrap it with this, is one of 4 that will play spring games coming up this Saturday. That's Texas A&M, South Carolina A&M, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, all playing their final or playing in their spring games, wrapping up spring practice, all available on the SEC Network Plus. And all interesting storylines, right? South Carolina's brought in Shane Beamer. You got a new staff in Columbia. Nobody exactly knows what to expect just yet. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, new head football coach. Ole Miss, got Lane Kiffin down there. What's he building? What special is behind the scenes or in the works? Seemingly pretty confident. A&M last year knocking on the door of the college football playoff, but after 2 decades, Kellen Mond has moved on as their starting quarterback. What intrigues you most about this slate of ball games coming up on Saturday?
Really look forward to South Carolina's. I just want to feel Carolina more than looking at individual personnel. Just want to feel Carolina. I think I've told you guys, and I've talked about this, anytime someone asks about Carolina, I'm a big proponent of them taking the Georgia Tech approach of don't talk about this being a year 0. Don't be woe is me. Everybody knows that there's a little bit of a rebuild that has to happen here, but take the twofold approach of be 100% positive on stage, and then back behind the curtain, the second approach is let's rewire it. Let's deconstruct and reconstruct the way that we want this roster and program to look. But let's not do it out in front of everyone in the open and just constantly, it's like you're walking by a construction site and you hear the hammers and the drills and the jackhammers. No one wants to see their football program like that. Jeff Collins, for 2 years now, has won 3 games each year. And yet that fan base going into year 3 is jacked. I mean, they've never lost direction. They've never lost that energy because they've taken that 2-prong approach. So I hope Shane Beamer is able to do that. I have no idea what to expect at Tennessee, and I really have no idea what to expect at Texas A&M. A&M and Michigan were the 2 places this spring that have been the most impossible places to get information out of. I could stroll into Fort Knox easier than I could get updates on the quarterback situations in these 2 places. It is wild. Never seen it like that.
Who is considered the starting quarterback at A&M, or who's battling for it? I haven't even heard a name.
All right, so there's a rumor. My cousin's sister knows a dude who works at a gas station in Bryan, Texas. And the rumor, don't tell anyone you got this from me.
No, we won't.
It's Haynes King. But I also heard another rumor that who's that dude that jumped out of the plane in the Pacific Northwest all those years ago?
Oh, yeah, and he stole all that money and got away with it.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was – I just know that he's been tied to the position too. So I think it bears watching Saturday.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Luke Doty is going to start for South Carolina on Saturday, at least on one side of the ball. He's the presumptive starter. Josh, you're more of a national guy to ask this question to. A lot of our local guys, I don't think none of us have an answer that we feel comfortable with. But like we've seen Carolina over the years go in, especially the Muschamp years, you go in, oh, these 2 or 3 guys are neck and neck. They're battling. Well, that's not the case. They are battling, but Luke Doty's the starter. But if they started the season today, he's the guy. We all know that. What do you think that means for the Gamecocks?
Well, I think it means maybe this is not all that different than some years past. I think the difference is how honest the flow of information is. So maybe, you're just getting a little more brutal honesty, and maybe this guy has separated. There's no reason for us to pretend he hasn't. I don't know. That's a case by case. I talked to someone a couple of weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, and I was talking about Luke Doty with him, and the feedback was good. It's important. You can tell out of that South Carolina camp right now, everyone wants to temper expectations. No one wants to wake up and go to fillintheblank.com on a Tuesday morning and see sources. Doty could shock the world and land South Carolina in Atlanta come December. No one's saying that. But they are saying, we like him. We think he's progressed early on. We think he's a good fit for this system. It's kind of like Bo Nix at Auburn. Don't really know how much we're going to be able to tell because we lack at the receiver position. Hopefully we're not done addressing that. Having said that, yeah, I think it's safe to say what you guys have heard up there, that it's his right now.
I like that comparison to Auburn, by the way. They've got a really good stable of backs. Obviously, Tank Bigsby is the big name there. Gamecocks returned Kevin Harris, 1,000-yard rusher. Marshawn Lloyd, Zakondre White. I mean, it's a deep stable, and we don't know yet a wide receiver. So we'll see. We'll leave that there, though, Mr. Storm Chaser. Apparently, you go out hunting down tornadoes as well.
He's safe doing that.
Yeah, man.
Safe. Hold on. How many times have you ever said that's the most fun I had in my life? And you know what? I was safe the entire time doing it. That doesn't happen.
Good point. Fair. By the way, DB Cooper jumping out of the plane probably wasn't safe, but might have gotten away with it.
Yes, DB Cooper, Haynes King, neck and neck in College Station.
Well, you learn something new every day. I forgot I didn't even know the guy's name. I knew who it was, but I didn't know what his name was. Well, Josh, we really appreciate it, man. I know that we spoke to you this morning, so it was short notice. So we'll have to, if you don't mind, between pretty much mid-June through about mid-August, we'd like to have you every single day to get through the summer months.
Oh, you found yourself a little content hole, did you?
Does that happen in sports? I'm unaware.
Yeah, it's the desert. So evergreen is the key word that time of year.
That's right. Yeah. We will have you back again soon, though, man. I know that nothing too deep today, but certainly wanted to get some surface thoughts on what we've seen in the spring, specifically in the Southeastern Conference. It's not that far away, boys and girls. Spring games wrapping up this weekend and all across the country. Josh, thanks so much, man. We really, really appreciate it. Great stuff as always. The late kick is just awesome. It's one of folks that I know of favorite things to watch. Really informational. We really appreciate all your hard work.
All right, guys, have a good one.
Let him out.
You got it. There you go. Josh Pate, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, of course, host of the Late Kick with Josh Pate podcast. If you've never listened to that, I would highly encourage you to do that.
It's real good, man. I mean, he solos it, and the tempo. I mean, it moves along. It's well produced. He's real good.
Really well prepared. Yeah. It is the Oklahoma City bombing commemoration day. Keep those families in our thoughts and prayers. It's also National North Dakota Day and National Garlic Day.
Oh.
It is National Hanging Out Day. Where's your favorite hangout? Oh, wait.
Dog and duck. Yes. Here you go.
There you go.
I got the cup, yeah. Dog and duck. Right there. By the way, new kitchen hours, the Bell Hall location, temporary, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. That was just out today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks to Josh Pate, Collyn Taylor, and Skylar Meade. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Darren. We're back at noon tomorrow with Mike Morgan on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.